On the breaking the debt ceiling, we're less than $100 billion away. Sounds like a lot, right? Well, within the next 24 hours, the White House will formally have to ask Congress to raise that limit so we can keep paying our bills. But some Democrats say forget lifting the limit, get rid of the limit completely. And Jehmu Greene says they're right. Jehmu, come on, get rid of the limit. If we get rid of the limit, Congress will spend like drunken sailors. And again, the old line, no offense to drunken sailors.
That's not actually true, Eric. The reality is the debt problem, which you care greatly about, it's a serious problem. The debt ceiling problem is completely man-made. It's self-manufactured by a bunch of jokers up on the Hill, which the American people clearly have said we don't have very much trust in Congress. But it doesn't restrict spending. It threatens our credit, and something we both care about. When that happens, it weakens our country. And for them to try to think that this two-step that they do, where they appropriate the money, they pass these bills, they say the spending should happen, and then they need to reapprove it. A two-step in Texas is a good thing. National two-step makes no sense.
One of the most important things, at least financially, that's happened to America in probably the last decade was when there was an S&P downgrade of America because of the debt, because of the potential for exceeding the debt limit without Congress getting their act together, right?
Absolutely. And why did that downgrade happen? Because of the antics that the S&P and financial folks saw happening in Washington, D.C., where our government came to a halt, where we had a small group, a minority of fanatics saying that they were going to hold us hostage and we weren't going to pay our bills.
If there's no debt ceiling to exceed, then there's no reason for an S&P or Moody's or Fitch to downgrade America, so they can just spend wantonly without ever worrying about a downgrade.
That's not what would happen. The greatest risk here is if these antics that we saw play out in the summer, that people on both sides of the aisle just threw their hands up in frustration with the lack of ability for compromise. If these antics continue, what if the world says, you know what, we used to trust in you, but we're going to charge you just a little bit more to borrow money? That's when our debt problem becomes even much more significant. I do think this is something both of us can agree on.
When this debt ceiling problem happened, one thing very importantly happened. Congress got it together and they extended the Bush tax cuts going forward because of the debt ceiling, because we were up against the debt ceiling. And frankly, the fiscal conservatives in the House said, either you fix this problem or we're going to let this thing expire, right? We're going to let it go right through the debt ceiling, and then there would be bigger problems.
Political theater is not how our government should run.
It enabled America to have lower taxes going at least another year.
There has been no restricting of spending that has come from having this debt ceiling legislation in place. Now, we may disagree on what spending cuts and if it's focusing on entitlements and how we get there, but I do think from a common sense standpoint, if this piece of legislation, the debt ceiling in and of itself, has not even gotten you the results you want, why do we have steps for these folks?
There's a reason we got to go, but there's a reason why credit card companies put a limit on what you can spend. Because if they don't have a limit, you'll overspend it time and time again. Jehmu, we got to leave it there. Jehmu Greene, thank you so much.
Thanks, Eric.
All right, don't think you didn't pay your respects to